Imagine, imagine you were sitting down right now with your morning coffee.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Right. You reach over, you grab a flaky golden puff pastry, and you just take a bite.
Just a completely normal, comforting daily habit.
Exactly. But what if you knew that this exact same pastry-like, this completely ordinary baked good, was actively funding a massive systemic societal shift?
It sounds a little crazy when you put it like that.
It does. But that is exactly what we're getting into. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking through a really fascinating stack of sources today. I got company overviews and some really detailed social impact reports.
And these are all focused on a Nepalese snack brand called Khajurico.
Yes, Khajurico. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore this incredible intersection of commerce and social change. We really want to figure out how a simple puff pastry became a 30-year catalyst for women's empowerment in Nepal.
Which is such a great topic because I think it perfectly illustrates something we often forget. Well, the most profound societal changes, they rarely happen in, corporate boardrooms or through loud, dramatic legislation.
Right, it's not usually a big headline.
No, not at all. They happen quietly. They happen in the mundane, everyday routines of regular people who are just simply going about their lives.
Okay, let's unpack this because we really need to understand what this product is before we get into the massive social impact. The origins are just completely unassuming.
Very unassuming.
We are looking at Lalitpur, Nepal, and the year is 1990 AD.
Right.
And Khajurico didn't launch as some heavily funded, massive factory operation.
Oh, definitely not.
The sources say it began as a, quote, small family cottage industry. It was literally just a home-based bakery.
Which is a really crucial detail to start with.
Why is that so crucial?
Because to understand the weight of what this company eventually accomplishes, we have to paint a realistic picture of the socioeconomic landscape of Nepal back in the early 90s.
Okay, set the scene for us.
We are talking about a highly traditional patriarchal structure.
Right.
The idea of mass commercial female employment, especially, outside the immediate agricultural family unit or outside the home, it was absolutely not the norm.
It was pretty much outside the cultural standard entirely.
Exactly. So starting out as a home-based bakery makes total sense for that specific era.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But over the next 3 decades, they obviously don't stay a cottage industry.
No, they scale up massively.
Right. They evolve from that single home-based operation into a literal national leader in the Nepalese snack industry.
It's quite the trajectory.
It really is.
Yeah.
And their absolute signature product that they really put them on the map is called the original Nepali Puff.
Which are these Khajurico Puff pastry snacks. They're light, flaky, and just ideal for, larger gatherings or festive treats.
Yeah, but people also just eat them every day with tea. Kind of reminds me of, that beloved mom and pop bakery in your own hometown.
Oh, sure. The one everyone goes to on a Sunday.
Exactly. But imagine if that exact same hometown bakery somehow managed to scale up to supply the entire country, but they did it without losing their soul.
That's a really great way to conceptualize it.
Right. And there is a specific phrase the company uses to describe this product in the sources. They call it a, quote, silent companion to morning conversations and evening gatherings.
Silent companion. What's fascinating here is that is a very deliberate choice of words.
Okay, wait. I have to jump in and push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
Because, every food brand out there likes to call themselves a silent companion or a tradition tasted.
Sure, yeah.
That's great marketing copy. But does that kind of branding actually translate to real societal influence? Or are they just, selling a lot of flour and butter and putting a nice spin on it?
It is a completely fair skepticism. Marketing is just marketing, right?
Yeah.
But there is a fundamental difference between a catchy slogan and a multi-generational reality.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, if a brand has physically been on your breakfast table for 30 years, it stops being a mere commodity.
It becomes a habit.
More than a habit. It becomes a trusted fixture. In any culture, but particularly in a traditional society like Nepal, that ingrained trust is a very potent currency.
Oh, I see. Because they aren't viewed as some outside force trying to come in and change things.
Exactly. You cannot disrupt deeply held cultural norms if you are perceived as an outsider or an agitator.
You'd just be rejected immediately.
Immediately. But if you are the local bakery that everyone already loves, the business that has been providing the centerpiece for family celebrations for 3 decades.
You actually have a seat at the table.
You have a seat at the table, and more importantly, you have leverage.
And that leverage is where the numbers in this deep dive get absolutely wild.
The statistics are pretty staggering.
Yeah. So let's look at the national backdrop. In Nepal, the national female labor force participation rate, it hovers right around 27.6%.
Barely over a quarter.
Right. Barely over a quarter of women are participating in the formal labor force. It is a societal structure that just heavily, heavily favors women remaining exclusively in the domestic sphere.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at Khajurico's factories today, and their staff is over 80% female.
80%.
80%.
I mean, compared to a national average of under 28, that is a complete systemic anomaly.
Here is where it gets really interesting, though, because we hear modern companies boast about diversity quotas all the time.
Sure, all the time.
But maintaining an 80% female staff in a country where the national average is 27%, that's not a quota. That is a complete systemic overhaul.
Yeah.
So how does a bakery actually pull that off in such a skeptical culture?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it all comes down to safety.
Safety.
Yes. Safety is the absolute prerequisite to empowerment in this context.
Okay, wait, it's confused here. This feels like a massive chicken and egg problem.
How so?
Well, we know that Nepalese society is highly skeptical of women working outside the home. And the primary barrier is that lack of physical and social safety.
Right.
So if a woman's safety is guaranteed by the fact that she's surrounded by an 80% female workforce, how did they get those first women in the door to build that 80% majority in the first place?
I see what you mean.
Like, you can't just hang up a help wanted sign in 1990 in a conservative culture and magically get a massive female staff to instantly create a safe environment.
That is exactly the right question to ask, and it gets to the core mechanism of how they pulled this off. The answer goes right back to how they started.
The cottage industry thing.
Precisely. It was a home-based bakery.
Oh, wow. So it was like a domestic loophole.
Exactly. In 1990, it wasn't an intimidating industrial factory. It was a home.
That makes so much sense.
Right. For a traditional family who might be hesitant about sending their daughter or wife into the commercial workforce, a home bakery feels familiar.
It just feels like a natural extension of domestic work.
Exactly. So the very first women who joined, they weren't crossing this massive, controversial cultural boundary. They were just, going to bake in a neighbor's house.
That is so smart. It wasn't an abrupt revolution at all. It was just a slow boil.
And they built the foundation of their female workforce while they were still small and completely unthreatening to the status quo.
So by the time they scaled into a massive national operation with huge facilities, that 80% female culture was already locked in.
The pre-existing culture became the safety mechanism itself.
So by the time a family in, say, 2015 is debating whether it's safe for their daughter to take a job there, Khajurico already has this massive proven track record.
Exactly. It's an environment of women working alongside women, and the sources actually describe it as a culture built on, quote, trust and belongings.
Trust and belongings.
Yeah, and a, quote, sense of helping each other.
Which is huge.
It is, because Khajurico became this living proof to the whole society that women can safely participate in the broader economy.
Without compromising their security or their reputation.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about what that actually looks like in practice, because the day-to-day reality of this workforce is really fascinating.
The real-world ripple effect.
Yeah. It's not just about giving someone a job. It's about what that job enables. For instance, the sources point out that a lot of the younger demographic working there are actively navigating higher education.
Yes. Many young girls, they go to college in the morning and then come to work at Khajurico afterward for the afternoon shift.
So what does this all mean? I keep thinking about this setup like an economic engine for education.
It really is.
It's almost like a localized scholarship program where the afternoon shift on the factory floor is actively financing the morning university classes.
And it gives them this profound independence. The sources use a very specific phrase here. They say these students become, quote, independent by themselves to take care of themselves.
Independent by themselves. I mean, that is an incredible level of autonomy.
Absolutely.
But it also takes an immense amount of grit. Like going to college lectures all morning and then working a factory shift all afternoon. That is exhausting.
Oh, it is hard labor, no question.
But the financial autonomy clearly makes it worth it.
Well, and it changes their trajectory completely.
Right.
True empowerment creates upward mobility. Some of those young women might move into management roles within Khajurico,
Yeah.
but many others, they take that degree, which was fully funded by their own labor, and they enter the wider professional class.
The bakery acts as a launchpad.
Exactly.
And it's not just the young college students either. We also see this massive shift for older women, for mothers.
Yes, this is where we see a very fundamental transition happening.
The sources mention a shift from women strictly doing, quote, household works to taking care of their families, quote, in terms of monetary contributions as well.
This raises an important question, though, about how we define contribution within a family structure.
Okay, let's get into that.
In traditional setups, a woman's contribution is almost strictly defined as household work: cooking, cleaning, child rearing.
Which is obviously vital labor.
It is incredibly vital, but it does not inherently grant financial autonomy. The economic power, and therefore the ultimate decision-making power, still largely rests with whoever is bringing in the cash.
Right. So how does shifting from purely household labor to bringing home a paycheck fundamentally change the power dynamic and independence for these women?
Well, it changes everything, because
Right.
true empowerment isn't just a buzzword, it is financial autonomy.
Yeah.
By allowing women to provide monetary care, Khajurico proves to the entire society that working outside the home doesn't mean abandoning the family.
It's a powerful new way to support and elevate the family.
Exactly. When a woman can say she is taking care of her family monetarily, she gains an equal seat at the decision-making table within her own home.
She gets a say in the family budget. She gets a say in her children's education.
It's a dual ability. The sources point out that this allows them to be completely independent, taking care of themselves while also looking after their families.
It's no longer an either-or situation.
Not at all.
It is just phenomenal to think about the scale of this. Like, what started in 1990 as a small cottage industry, just a family baking pastries in their kitchen, has turned into this massive engine for social equality. It really brings all the threads together for you as a listener. It reminds you that consumer choices carry incredible weight.
Every transaction is an endorsement.
Exactly. When people buy Khajurico, they aren't just buying a puff pastry for their tea.
No, they're voting with their wallets.
Yes. They are actively supporting a 30-year legacy of women's independence
They're funding those morning college classes.
and empowering mothers to bring monetary care into their households. As the sources beautifully state, it is, quote, from their hands to your home.
It is quite literally the taste of a stronger Nepal.
I love that phrase. It gives a whole new meaning to comfort food, doesn't it? Knowing that the comfort you are enjoying is actively creating safety and security for the person who made it.
It really does.
Well, it leaves you with the final, lingering idea to really mull over today.
Oh,
Yeah, think about it. If a small, home-based bakery in Lalitpur could dramatically shift the needle on women's independence simply by creating a safe space to work right, what massive untapped potential for social change might be sitting completely dormant in the ordinary everyday businesses right in your own neighborhood?